doesn't get it right now. Thank you to everyone who came out to bowling night last week. It was a lot of fun. Great to see you guys all out of a meeting setting. Let's see. So one of our biggest announcements right now is our merch is ready. So this is our design, and we have sent the merch in just form out in GroupMe. So if you didn't see it there, I have it here. You guys can go ahead and fill it out. If you're interested, we're also possibly going to do a crew neck, just depending on how many people want it, and then what prices come out to will be finalized and sent out. Hopefully by next week at meeting, we'll have everything finalized and we can place our order. So if you're interested, please go ahead and scan that. If you have any questions about sizes or anything, just reach out to us. So upcoming point opportunities, as always, these are all listed on our point opportunities document. And if you're still not able to see that, please come and talk to one of the secretaries after meeting, because we want you to be able to see your point opportunities. There's a professional development workshop, I believe it's on Wednesday. There's a registration QR code on that flyer. The speaker series on Friday morning, it's about advancing health equity. Aztecs Rock Hunger started, I think, just late last week. So if you participate in that and you send us proof to the email, you get a half point. And then I will talk about this event a little bit more in detail next week, but I've organized for us to go to a food bank on November 3rd. Unfortunately, they only limit to 20 people, so that'll be a first come, first served basis on our Google form next week. And we'll set up rides for that, and you basically just like sort through food and package them, and they send them out to like homeless shelters or like foster children and stuff like that. But yeah, kind of quick for me today because we do have a guest speaker. Our next meeting is going to be next week because we had a little gap last week because the room wasn't available. So we're meeting next week, and then we'll go back to the bi-weekly schedule. Following that, with I think November 6th is going to be the following one after that. And yeah, if you're still having any trouble accessing membership information, please speak to an honor Grace after meeting because we want you to be able to see that sort of stuff. But yeah, without further ado, please welcome our speaker, Jeffrey.
Hello everyone, my name is Jeffrey. You guys can call me Dr. Jeff, Dr. Jeffrey, Dr. RJ. Hey, I'll respond to it. Here just to pass on some knowledge, information, answer questions, however it can be helpful to future physical therapists and help you in your journey. First, a little bit about myself. I was born and raised here in San Diego, and probably most of my childhood was formed through Boy Scouts and Eagle Scout and playing soccer since I was 4. That led me towards this path of physical therapy. And also, if you're curious, I went to Cathedral Catholic High School in Carmel Valley. Moved on to Chapman University, got my bachelor's in kinesiology and exercise science. Was there for 4 years, graduated in 2017. While I was there, initially started as athletic training, and eventually decided to move on to physical therapy. So good experience there. Also got to spend a month or so abroad in Australia studying with physiotherapists down there as well. So some good experience there if you guys are wondering about that. And then I got my doctorate at the University of Southern California, USC, up in Los Angeles. Graduated in 2020, right at the start of COVID and all that fun stuff. And then where I'm at now, I'm at Pro Results Physical Therapy in El Cajon. Started there in November 2021. I was the first PT at a new location that they started in El Cajon. It's a relatively new company. And then from there on, we've built up the clinic. I'm now the manager there. We have 4 or 5 full-time therapists on staff now with full weekly schedules. And I am now recently also the SCCE, which for you guys doesn't mean too much right now, but means Site Coordinator of Clinical Education. When you are in physical therapy school and you go out for your rotations to go to different clinics or whatever, I'm the person on the clinics end for us that helps organize the students to our different locations. In addition to El Cajon, we also have Poway, Escondido, San Marcos, and Oceanside. So I help organize all that. So just a little bit about myself. And then starting off, I do want to just mainly make it just advice for you guys and answer questions as much as possible. I polled some people in your position, some of my colleagues, some people in PT school now, that's either knowledge that they wish they had, that they would like to know. And so I'd like to cover some of that now ahead of time, and probably questions you guys already have. And any questions come up, feel free to raise your hand. I'm happy to go into as much or as little detail as you guys want. So first off, when I was in your position, I just knew about physical therapy, but I didn't realize the breadth that it encompassed. And that's was one thing I wanted to touch on first. Immediately, when you first think of physical therapy, you might think of old people that are hurt or professional sport teams, and you don't really think about anything else. But there are other avenues within physical therapy. Up there from birth to death. So basically, as soon as you're born, I have some colleagues in the neonatal ICU that help with preborn babies that need physical therapy, all the way to end-of-life care, and everything in between. Different settings that physical therapy is present in: orthopedics, so that's your common joints, bone, muscle issues, sprained ankles, knee replacements, kind of common things we think of. Neurology, nerves, nerve dysfunction, so like under that is your stroke, your neurologic dysfunctions, brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, more common things there. And pediatrics, so your kids, like I said, anyone from birth to 18, 20, 21 is considered in that category. Maybe a lesser known one is cardiopulmonary. Break that down: cardio, heart, pulmonary, lungs. So cardiac rehab, pulmonary rehab, people that has heart surgery, pneumonia, anything like that, put them in a hospital. Physical therapy can help them get back to being functional, help them breathe, help them walk, just get back to life. Another lesser known category is women's health. And again, that goes from birth to death, and specifically focusing on women's health, and the different issues that women may have over their lifetime that may need a little bit more special attention, usually relating to pregnancy or pelvic floor dysfunction for any reason. Oncology, which is relating to people with cancer. So again, maybe lower functioning people that are living with cancer, their life is affected negatively, need help getting back to their life, we can help with that. And the obvious sports, professional sports teams, high school, anything to there. The smaller point underneath there, again, are the maybe smaller fields that people may not be fully aware of. The first one, dizziness and balance. I wasn't too aware of that when I was in your position. So as people get older, people get dizzy. They think maybe, oh, I'm old, it's normal to be dizzy. That's not normal. We can help with that, and there's different ways we can help with that. As well as balance. Falling is not good, especially in an older population, so we want to prevent that if possible. But I have the jaw up there. We are masters of muscles, bones, tendons, and any joint in the body, and that includes the jaw. So clicking, crunching, locking, PT can help with that also. Pelvic floor, I mentioned. With women's health, either people having issues with their bladder, and that also goes to male patients too, a lot of times after like prostate cancer or issues with that, they might have issues with bladder control. Physical therapy can help with that as well. Wound care. Does anyone know what wound care is when I say that? No, that's what I figured. I had no idea what that was either. Technically, that's within our wheelhouse. An open wound, taking care of it, making sure it heals appropriately, preventing infection. If there is infection, getting rid of it. Physical therapy, we got our start in, I think, World War I with soldiers after amputation. Nurses were brought in and specialized to help orthopedically for rehab, but along with the amputations, there's wound care to help that new wound, and that's that. And the last one's research. There are some physical therapists that do strictly research. Everything that we use to treat and to practice, there needs to be some proof behind what we're doing. We're not just waving our fingers over people to make them feel better because that's what we think helps. There's actual research to support that, as well as to maybe disprove some of the finger waggling to show that maybe it doesn't help. So that's always coming out, and there are some PT that's all they strictly do is they're in the research setting, doing experiments, figuring that stuff out. Any questions so far on that? Okay, cool. And then some specific settings: hospital, schools, sports teams. Their private outpatient clinic, where I'm at right now. Does anyone know what a skilled nursing facility is when I say that, or SNF? Anyone? See it, one nod. You know what it is? Can you explain it?
It's like a nursing home for older people.
Yeah, basically. So they're good enough to leave the hospital, but not good enough to go home, kind of the in-between. Nurses are on staff, therapists are on staff, but it's not like 24-hour care, but they're on call to assist them whenever they need. Home health then is the next stage below that. They're good enough to leave the facility, but they're not good enough to make it to the outpatient clinic, so they need therapists to make it to their home to take care of them. And then one kind of new setting is an outpatient physical therapy at home. Now this is relatively new. You get a drink of water. It's starting to become more popular as people don't want to leave their home, especially with COVID recently. A lot of people got used to being at home. So what we can do there is it's the outpatient patients, so like the ankle sprains, knee replacements, the not serious stuff, but we go to their home and perform any sort of treatments that they need. It's more convenient, it's becoming more popular, and as therapists, you're in a lot more control of your schedule and where you go. So that's kind of a new thing. It wasn't really around when I was in your position, and it's kind of just starting out now. Yeah. Any questions here? Good. All right. Now, for advice directly at you guys, for in your position, again, I talked to people in your position, questions I have, and then advice that I would probably give myself. Your letters of recommendation, get them as early as you can. And if you do want to ask a letter of recommendation for someone you had like your freshman year or something, maintain that relationship. You don't want to wait 3-4 years, go back, ask for a letter. They don't remember who the heck you are. Maintain that relationship. For volunteer work hours for your application, the more varied the better. So all those settings on the previous page, if you can get volunteer observation hours and as many of those settings as possible, the better. Schools like to see that you are more aware of the whole breadth of physical therapy. Get your deadlines figured out early, it's self-explanatory. Check if the GRE is needed. I know when I was in your position, basically every school needed it, but now it's different. Not every school needs it. So if that weighs into where you apply or not, take that into account. Do you guys know what the PT CAS is? Does someone want to explain what that is to people that don't know?
Just like the portal that you use to apply to PT school, and mostly all the PT schools are on it, kind of like CSU apply when you were applying.
So most schools use that. Some schools don't. I'm pretty sure SDU, do they still don't use it? Yeah, okay. Do they still require that video? I didn't apply here because of that video. Yeah. Some of them do require the supplemental essay, so take that into account for your timing and for your deadlines. And applications do cost money, take that into account. And apply to your reach school. Just because it's like the top school in the country, or you don't think you're gonna make it, still apply. USC was my only acceptance in California. At the time, I think they were the #1 school, now they're like #2. So it's still top school. I almost didn't apply. I applied to maybe 10 or 12 schools overall. 8 of them were in California. 6 no's, a couple wait lists, only yes was USC. So you don't know if you don't try. Otherwise, I would have been in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, which is fine, but not ideal. Any questions here? Yes.
If you were to go to school in Arizona, would, like, when you take your exit exam, would that, and you move back to California to work here, would that transfer over? Or since it's California and they have like higher standards, would you have to take the test?
Are you talking about for like license or licensure? It depends on the state. You bring a good point that California does have a higher standard. And for people that don't know, once you graduate, you do have to take another test after you graduate to get your license. And it's state by state. Each state has a little bit of different rules. California is the strictest. So, I don't know, but Florida usually sucks with things. So if you take a test in Florida and get your license there and you try to move to California, you'll probably have to take the test again because you might have more rules in Florida. I don't know, but that probably sounds like what the case would be. It'd be state by state, some you do, some you don't. But if you do take it in California and you go to a different state, you'll likely not have to take it again because of the rules we have here. For example, what can't we do? We can't pierce skin, so like acupuncture, dry needle. Physical therapists, we can't do that in California. Other states you can. Bunch of little weird rules like that here and there. But that's like the first one that comes to mind. So it depends state by state. There is a license test, and then there is a law exam that you have to take once you graduate. You might have to take one again, but not the other. It depends. Any other questions on that? Cool. General advice. Okay. So again, this is more advice for that I would think would be helpful for you guys to hear. Newer programs or hybrid programs. Does anyone know what a hybrid program is for physical therapy? Or does anyone want to explain what that is to people that don't know? Or think you can explain it? You wanna try?
It's like partially online, partially in person. And
Okay.
St. Augustine offers it.
St. Augustine has a program. USC has a program. They're starting to become more common. Again, especially with COVID, that changed how we operate as a society. So it is an option. Because it is a hands-on profession, you can't do everything online. So lectures, that might be online, and then once a month, you have to go in and practice hands-on skills, be tested, changes program to program. But it takes a lot of self-motivation. I know for me personally, I would not be able to focus if my lecture was online. I would not be able to want to do anything. And then be able to work part-time, if that's something you want to be able to do as well. When I was in PT school, there was no time to work, even if I wanted to, just because I was in class or studying basically every day, and it is a full-time job, even more so, like time commitment wise. When you are doing the hybrid program, you have a little bit more flexibility to do that. I have one of the PTs I manage right now. He did the hybrid program at St. Augustine, and he worked part-time as a physical therapy aide for a couple of years. So either you want to keep working, money-wise, whatever, it's an option. Here, if you don't get in the first time, don't let it discourage you. Reapply, but show that you did something to work on yourself and improve. You took classes, you got more hours at different clinics, different settings, and then reach out to that school and ask why you didn't get it. Maybe it is something specific where your grade in a certain class wasn't good enough, you didn't have enough hours, not enough diversity in settings. They can usually give you a answer. Any questions on that?
For if you were to reach out and ask, would you just email admissions, do you think?
Yeah, admissions, yeah, just reaching out to admissions and say, hey, I didn't get in, or I was waitlisted, I want to reapply again in 6 months or in a year. What can I do to be more appealing? Sometimes just the fact that you're doing that is good enough. They'll keep you in mind when your name comes up in a year, like, oh, this person really wants to be here, let's take them. Maybe they'll give you some advice on this, but either way, it's helpful. And then maybe they don't get back to you, never hurts to ask. You don't know if you don't ask. Yeah. Any other questions? Who here wants to work for or with professional athletes? The fact of the matter is, if that is your goal, that's your dream, you should probably get your ATC or your athletic training certification first before physical therapy school. That's because you're going to be competing with all the other hundreds of PTs that want to do sports as well, and that's who they're going to lean towards over you. Kind of sucks if you're this far and you haven't done it yet, but that's kind of just how the job market, and that's how it is right now. That's kind of why I want to tell you guys, just to let you know, so you don't get through 3 years PT school and go, why doesn't this team want me? Probably should get your ATC. And then for the programs you do get into, it doesn't matter where you go, honestly. Each school will prepare you. You get in what you put in. So this is a quote I got from one of my colleagues. You get what you put in regardless of the program. Of course, I'm biased towards USC, but middle of nowhere Arizona would have been fine too. They would have prepared me for the exam, and I would have been successful anyway. Any questions there? I don't want to discourage you guys about the sports stuff, but I just wanted to be honest with, that's how it is right now in the market. I have a couple friends, has one that does professional swimming, PT, one that does overhead athletes, so badminton, volleyball, basketball. And they definitely lean towards the people that have the ATC. Okay, that's the main points I wanted to hit. Now I do want to take questions. I'll be honest about anything you guys ask. If you want to know about tuition, how much debt I'm in, all of that stuff that's not very exciting, I'll answer it. I'll be honest. I'm not gonna. I want you guys to be physical therapists, but I'm gonna be honest about some of the bad stuff, but also all the good stuff too. So feel free to ask. Yeah.
I wanna know how much tuition was like at
At
USC.
USC?
All the time, yeah.
I'm lucky I'm not in 6 digits of debt. I have 90,000 right now of student debt just from USC. And then that's only half of tuition. Yeah, so my parents I was lucky that my parents were able to help out a little bit. You also gotta take into account food, housing, supplies, having some sort of fun, living life. So there's that cost too. Yeah, so that's why the hybrid program, if you can work at the same time, that's an option. If you want to take a year or two of work, build up some money, that's fine too.
How long are the hybrid programs usually? Because I know they're longer than 3 years.
It depends. I know St. Augustine is 4 years, I think. Last I checked, USC is still 3 years. Some PT programs are accelerated, so they take less than 3 years. And that's more of the residential programs. If they're less than 3 years, I'd personally question what they're leaving out or what are they not getting to, if they can get you done in that quickly, because after 3 years, it seemed pretty jam-packed, and if it was less than that, I kind of question why it's less than 3 years. Yes?
Do you see any cons to the job, or is it all positive too?
Say that again?
Do you see any cons to the job, or is it all mainly positive?
Paperwork sucks. I'm sure every PT you're gonna ask, paperwork sucks. Honestly, it's a little better now with some of the Medicare changes, but as you guys know, our government isn't the most stable, so health insurance and all that stuff changes every 4 years. So that's quite a big negative. Other cons. Honestly, that's it. I love what I do. It doesn't feel like I'm working. Yeah, I work 40 hours a week. I manage other PTs. I have a full schedule. I also see people privately on the side, and I take time out to come talk to students like you and help students on the side, and none of it feels like work. The only time it does is the damn paperwork. But yeah, if that goes for anything you find, if you like what you do, it doesn't feel like work. I've been doing it now for a couple of years, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I haven't been bored once, I haven't been overwhelmed once. But also that depends on where you end up working. That's also plays a big part. If your boss sucks, yeah, it might feel like work. But with the going to people's houses, private stuff on the side, you can be your own boss, that's always an option. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Do you know anything about like travel PT?
Okay. I didn't do it personally. I have a couple friends that did. Travel PT. It's a good way if you're, honestly, if you're single, want to make more money, and you want to see the country, it's a good option. You're not, I say that because you're not in control of where you're going to be. So if you want to have a family and your partner doesn't want to be traveling with you, it's going to make life a little hard. But because you aren't in control, you get paid a little bit more because of it. So I end up in Hawaii, real nice place in like on the East Coast in Florida, and then middle of nowhere Arizona. I don't know why you keep picking on Arizona, but it's hot as hell there. But yeah, so it is an option. And then it's another way to get a lot of varied experience. My friend that's done it, she's done pediatrics, outpatient clinic, she worked at Kaiser, oncology. Yeah, she's done a lot in less than 2 years of doing it, and she's been up and down the East Coast, up and down the West Coast.
How do you get into travel PT?
By the end of your PT career, PT school, you'll be hounded by a lot of recruiters to want to pull you into it because you need money and you're fresh and they want to pull you into it. So if you want it, it'll be easy to pull. I can give you more details on that if you want, but that's honestly how it works. Is they see that you're graduating soon, you'll get tens of emails about different travel PT companies that are looking for new excited grads that want to see the country.
What did your experience look like while you were applying to PT school? Like, what were your hours and such?
Like when I was like an undergrad, or okay. I had 200 to 300 hours, but mainly that was built up over multiple summers at the same place. That's probably one thing I regret, is not going to different clinics. And then I got like 50 hours at like a random hospital associated place, but it was mainly at this one clinic that I got most of my hours at. That's why I recommend getting as many as you can in different places. I probably would have gotten more yeses if I did it.
My question was about when you were at USC and PT school for your clinical rotations, did you get to do different style of clinics, or did you get to choose, and like how kind of flexible was it? Did you, like, if you wanted to go to a different state or city, would you be able to do that?
Yeah, it was very varied. I did a dizziness clinic, wound care at the USC hospital, a private outpatient clinic with a boss that was crazy. I got yelled at for missing a belt loop on my belt one day. Yeah. I forgot to shave one day, was told not to come back the next day if I did the same thing. Yeah, it was fun. But yeah, it was pretty varied. I tried to stay in Southern California, but that was just my personal desire. There were some people that went across the country to Johns Hopkins. Some people were at spring training for baseball. Some people went out to Hawaii, basically anywhere across the country in all different settings. That is one thing too to keep in consideration if you have the luxury of choosing which PT school you go to, is see where they have connections. bigger schools, you're gonna have bigger connections, and you're gonna be able to go to more options across the country. So USC, they have those connections across the country. Smaller schools like St. Augustine, maybe not as much, still good, but it's not gonna be as big of a list.
This might be like a little heavier question,
Yeah.
but do you think the salary behind PT is enough to like pay off the debt accumulated in like a realistic time frame?
That's not a heavy question. I guess it depends on where you're working and how much you owe. I just refinanced my loans, so I owe maybe $250 a month right now, so I'll probably be paying that until all my hair's gone. But we'll see how things change. I'm comfortable with discussing salary right now. As a manager in an outpatient clinic, it's a relatively small new company. I'm making about $90,000 a year, plus maybe another 10 to 15,000 on the side doing private stuff here and there over the year. Did I answer your question? Any other yes or no?
What was like the job search process like right after PT school?
Really easy. Especially with the baby boomers getting old, they are gonna need PT. The issue is finding a clinic that you want to work at, finding a good clinic. The issue isn't finding a clinic. You don't wanna end up at a place where you're expected to see 6, 7, 8 people an hour. That's not realistic. You're gonna get burnt out in a year, and you're not gonna be able to provide good care to your patients. Right now, I see on average 2 an hour, and that's normal, I'd say, for an outpatient clinic. You still need to see some sort of volume, because it's still a company, it's still a business, and you still need to make money. Ideally, you'd be like 1 an hour, take your time, but it usually comes out to like 2 or 3 an hour, and that's manageable. There are some clinics that they just churn through patients, and as a result, they churn through PTs. And those are the places that have, the 6, 7, 8 people an hour. They're out there, probably not the most legal with some of the stuff they do. There's a place down the street from me in El Cajon that got shut down recently, and that was the kind of volume they were seeing, and it seemed a little sketchy that a massage therapist on staff and that was maybe doing physical therapy, but that's something else.
Okay, so how much do like other clinics want you? I'm kind of trying to say, like, say if I worked somewhere and I was making $90K a year and I wanted to go somewhere else to make more, like, how does that look? Is that easy? Is that attainable?
Yeah. I haven't personally sought out other positions because I'm happy with where I'm at. I like being at a smaller company because I can call either of the owners right now and say, hey, I think we should do this. They'll answer, they'll listen, they'll take that into consideration. Versus the bigger chains that have tens, hundreds of locations across the country. If you wanted to change something in the system, it's almost impossible. That being said, the smaller companies probably won't be able to pay you as much versus if you want to go work for Kaiser, you work in a hospital, just in general, SNFs, the nursing facilities, you're gonna be making a lot more there. Hospitals, maybe a little bit less, but still more. And then home health, a good amount too. And then the outpatient clinic, is probably the lesser amount. That's because SNFs are a little bit depressing to work in sometimes, because of the population you're with. It's older people, they aren't functioning very well, maybe towards the end of their life, not in the best of mood. So people don't want to work there, but that's why they're gonna pay you more. Yeah. If I wanted to, I could probably go over to Kaiser and say like, hey, this is my skill set, this is my experience, I've been managing this many people, I'm in charge of students. What's your offer? I could probably do that and probably get something good. But I haven't done that yet because I'm happy with where I'm at.
Based on your clinical rotations in graduate school, which division of PT did you prefer?
Initially I preferred vestibular physical therapy, which is more focused on that dizziness and balance. It's not something I was very aware of when I was in your position. It wasn't until I was kind of in school, it seemed interesting. I tried it and I was there for 16 weeks for a full-time rotation. So basically you're working full-time job underneath the supervision of another physical therapist. And at that time you are transitioning to being an independent therapist. You are getting advice, they're giving you advice, they're testing you, all that. So that was probably the most interesting setting I was in. I tried wound care because I shadowed a PT for a day in the hospital. He did wound care. It seemed interesting, and I'm not squeamish, and it seemed cool. We were going around and helping people with diabetic amputations, people that had like very severe third-degree burns, and all that. And then I decided to try it for a rotation. It was supposed to be an eight-week rotation. I tapped out 4 weeks, so you can probably see how I felt about that. They had me going to the cancer ward in the ICU, and I'm too emotional to be in that setting for that long, and I figured that out. So that's another piece of advice is try that weird thing you're not really sure that you might like, because you might be surprised. Like any of those settings I mentioned, look into it, Google it, ask me. I'll have my email up here. You can ask me questions if you want more specifics. You don't know until you shadow there, you don't know until you try it, you don't know until you ask. Yeah. Any other questions? Has this been helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Good. My email's up there. Feel free to take a picture of it, jot it down. I do take students in your position for shadowing and volunteer hours. I've taken a couple students actually over the years from your club. Kat actually is there right now. If you have any questions you want to ask her, I'm sure she's happy to, sorry to put you on the spot, but your experience there, if you don't want to ask me directly. And then my boss wanted me to plug her Instagram, so on, so there it is. You can follow it if you want, I honestly don't care. Yeah, any other questions? I'll still be hanging around afterward if you guys don't want to ask it in front of everyone. Still be